My son secretly got married and walked his mother-in-law down the aisle instead of me. I watched the video online, in silence. While they were enjoying their honeymoon, I sent them a surprise gift. My daughter-in-law's screams echoed through the hotel that night. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from, and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you my story. It happened on a Tuesday, a day of absolute crushing normalcy. I was in my home office, a room of dark wood and cool morning light, overlooking the gardens of my estate. I was in the middle of a video conference with my executive team in Singapore, discussing quarterly projections, when a private message pinged on my laptop. It was from an old friend, Cynthia, a woman I played bridge with. "Isabel, dear," the message read, "I had no idea. Why didn't you tell us?" I frowned, typing a one moment to my team. "Tell you what, Cynthia. Your son, Julian. The wedding. It's simply stunning. The bride is beautiful. He looks so happy." My blood went cold. I felt a slow, icy numbness creep up from my feet. Wedding? What wedding? My son, Julian, was in New York, working hard as the general manager of the Aura penthouse. He'd told me just last week, too busy for a relationship, let alone a wedding. A link followed. I clicked it. My friend was right. It was stunning. It was also a professionally shot, edited and scored same-day edit. Wedding video posted on a high-end videographer's public page. The title, Simone and Julian, a New York fairy tale. I stared, unblinking. There was my son, my only child, in a custom-fit tuxedo I had never seen. He was smiling, that brilliant, charming smile he always used. But he was smiling at a woman I had only met twice. Simone, a concierge from his hotel, a woman I had instantly and correctly identified as a venomous opportunist. The video was a blur of flashy, expensive details. A grand ballroom I didn't recognize. Hundreds of guests I didn't know. Flowers everywhere. A 10-tier cake, and then the ceremony. My son at the altar looking proud. Simone in a dress that must have cost a fortune floating toward him. I watched them take their vows. I watched them kiss, a triumphant, passionate kiss for the cameras. I watched them dance, him spinning her around the floor, their friends and family cheering. And I realized with a cold, sharp physical pain that took my breath away, that I was not there. He had gotten married. My only son had gotten married. In a lavish, extravagant and clearly long-planned ceremony. And he hadn't just forgotten to invite me. He had deliberately excluded me. My team in Singapore was still talking, their voices a distant, buzzing sound. I muted the call. I sat back in my leather chair, the silence of my grand, empty office pressing in on me. I was the mother of the groom, and I was finding out about the wedding, just like one of Cynthia's bridge club acquaintances from a link on the internet. My immediate reaction was not tears. It was a cold, sharp, profound shock. A clinical detachment. I felt like a surgeon looking at a fatal wound. The mother part of my brain had shut down, and the CEO part, the part that analyzes, that calculates, that sees threats, had taken over. I didn't close the video. I went back. I rewatched it. This time not as a mother but as an investigator. I was looking for why. The music swelled. A sappy orchestral piece. The doors of the ballroom opened. The ceremony was beginning. I watched the groomsmen walk. I watched the bridesmaids. And then the screen cut to Julian. He was standing at the front, but he turned and walked back, toward the entrance. My heart, which I thought had turned to stone, gave a stupid, painful lurch. Was he looking for me? Had he changed his mind? No. He walked to the back, where a woman in a powder blue dress was standing. She was beaming, her eyes filled with tears. It was Patricia, Simone's mother. A mousy, unassuming woman I had met briefly at a hotel cocktail party. A woman who had, I recalled, looked at me with a strange combination of awe and, was it pity? Julian reached her. He took her arm. He smiled at her, a smile of pure filial devotion, and the video, in a nauseating slow-motion shot, showed my son walking his new mother-in-law Patricia down the aisle. I stopped the video. I pressed my hand to my mouth. It wasn't just exclusion, it was replacement. He had given my role, the role of the mother, the honor of walking with her son, to her, to a practical stranger, to the mother of the woman who had in less than a year surgically excised me from my own son's life. The camera panned from Julian and Patricia to Simone at the altar, who was watching them with a triumphant, tearful smile. This was her doing. This was the master stroke of her coup. This was the public videotaped and posted online declaration that there was a new matriarch in Julian's life, that I was, in effect, dead. The video cut to Julian, whispering, "I love you" to Simone. He looked so proud, so free. The look on his face, it was the look of a man who believed he had finally successfully pulled something off. He had asserted his independence, he had cut the cord, and he had used my heart as the scissors. I stared at the screen, at the image of him and Patricia walking arm in arm. The humiliation was absolute. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't an oversight. This was a deliberate, calculated and public execution of my role in his life. The video was not a celebration, it was a trophy, and it was posted online for the entire world, my friends, my colleagues, my rivals to see. I muted the sappy music. I closed the browser tab. The sudden silence in my grand sun-filled office was absolute. I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I didn't throw my crystal water glass against the wall, though I wanted to. Instead, a profound, calculating and almost peaceful calm settled over me. The mother part of my brain, the part that had just been shot, was officially offline. The CEO was now in full control. The part of me that had built an empire from nothing, the part that had stared down bankers and hostile boards and ruthless competitors, that part was now looking at this situation not as a family tragedy but as a hostile takeover. Julian and his new wife thought I was Isabel, the overbearing stage mom. They saw me as a moderately successful, long-retired woman, who was now a controlling, judgmental helicopter parent, living vicariously through her son's brilliant career. They thought my money was old and modest. They thought my constant check-ins were the meddling of a bored, lonely widow who just wanted to be in the spotlight. They had no idea who I really was. My name is Isabel Devereaux. I am not retired. I am the anonymous founder, 100% shareholder, and active CEO of the Aura Hotel Group, one of the most exclusive and profitable luxury hospitality chains in the world. We don't just manage hotels. We are the hotels, we are the real estate, we are the management, we are the brand. My modest career was merely the foundation for a global empire. I am the architect of empire. I had set this all up as a test. A 30-year-long test of character. I had watched other wealthy families destroy their children with entitlement. I vowed mine would be different. I raised Julian with love, but I also wanted him to have the feeling of success. I didn't want him to be a trust fund baby. So I orchestrated his life. I let him believe he was a golden boy, that his charm and C-average degree had earned him everything. His career was a lie. A beautiful, expensive and carefully constructed lie, all paid for by me. And he, and his new opportunistic wife had just spit in my face, publicly declared me dead, and replaced me, all while living in my house, spending my money, and basking in the success I had handcrafted for him. They had just failed the test, and in doing so they had just turned my test into a termination proceeding. Julian had always been charming. He was a beautiful child who grew into a handsome man, a man who could talk his way out of anything. But he was soft. He had my smile but his father's spine, which is to say none at all. He had no grit, no killer instinct, no real business acumen. He was a born face of a company, not the brains of it. When he graduated from college, a university I had endowed, he'd come to me full of ambition. "Mom, I want to get into hotel management. I want to build something, like you." I was so proud. I thought, this is it. He's ready. I thought he would join me, learn from me, and one day earn the empire I was building for him. I was wrong. He didn't want to learn. He just wanted to be. He wanted the corner office, the title, the big salary, all without the 20-hour days and the soul-crushing risk. So I built him his golden cage. I set him up as the general manager of my flagship property in New York, the Aura Penthouse. This hotel is my crown jewel. It's not a hotel really. It's a 70-story tower of the most exclusive private residences in the city, with 50 penthouse guest suites that go for $30,000 a night. It's where billionaires stay when they're in town. It is, to put it mildly, the center of my universe. Julian manages this property. In reality, he's the chief handshaker. The real GM is a man named Arthur, a terrifyingly efficient man who reports directly to me and whose job is to manage Mr. Julian. Julian lives in the GM suite, a $10 million full-floor apartment, for free. He earns a salary of $300,000 a year, which is a direct deposit stipend from my personal trust. He has an unlimited corporate Amex for hotel operations, which I of course personally review the statements for every month. For 3 years this has been the arrangement. He gets to play the golden boy, the brilliant young self-made hotelier. He gets to live a life of absurd, effortless luxury. And in return all I asked was that he check in with me, his boss, once a week. But he, and now Simone, had come to see these calls as micromanaging. They thought my questions about budgets and occupancy rates were controlling. He truly, genuinely believed he had earned that $10 million apartment. He believed his charm was the reason the Aura penthouse was profitable. He had no idea he was a prince, playing king in his mother's castle, and he had just tried to banish the queen. I remember the day I met Simone. It was about a year ago, at a manager's cocktail party at the New York property, a party I was of course paying for. Julian brought her over, his face flushed with a new giddy excitement. "Mom," he'd said, "I want you to meet Simone. She's the best concierge we have." I looked at her. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall, sleek, with a smile that was all teeth and ambition. She was wearing a dress that was too expensive for a concierge's salary. She shook my hand, her grip firm, her eyes appraising me. She wasn't looking at a mother-in-law, she was looking at the competition. I saw her opportunism instantly. It was as bright and hard as the fake diamond earrings she was wearing. She was a status hunter, and my son, the charming, handsome, rich general manager, was the biggest prize in the hotel. I watched them for the rest of the night. Watched her hang on his arm. Watched her laugh too loudly at his jokes. Watched her whisper in his ear. She was good. She was very good. Almost immediately the tone of my weekly calls with Julian changed. "Mom," he'd say, a new defensive edge to his voice. "Simone thinks you don't trust me. She says you're micromanaging me." "Julian," I'd reply, "I'm not micromanaging. I'm asking why the food and beverage costs for the month are 30% over budget." "See? That's what I'm talking about. You're always judging me. Simone says you're just jealous that I have my own life now." Jealous. Isabelle Devereaux, with a net worth that could buy and sell his entire life 1,000 times over, was jealous of a 28-year-old concierge. The audacity was breathtaking. But I saw the pattern. She was systematically poisoning him. She was isolating him, cutting him off from the only person who would ever tell him the truth. She was framing my legitimate business oversight as emotional control and toxic jealousy. She was convincing him that I was the enemy. And now, I saw, she had won. This secret wedding, this public replacement with her own mother, this was not just a snub, it was a coup. She had convinced him to cut me out, and in doing so she believed she had just secured her place as the new queen. She thought she had just inherited the kingdom. She had no idea she had just married a penniless jester, and she had no idea that the queen she had just dethroned was the one who owned the castle, the throne, and the air she was breathing. My mind was racing. I was no longer a mother. I was a CEO in the middle of a crisis. This was no longer a family dispute. It was a case of corporate fraud. I knew Julian was planning a vacation. He'd been vague about it, which I'd found unusual. He'd put in a formal time-off request to me, his boss, for 2 weeks, citing personal wellness and burnout. I, playing the part of the indulgent mother boss, had approved it. "Of course, darling. You've been working so hard," I'd said. "Go relax. De-stress." Now, watching the wedding video, I saw the wellness trip for what it was, a secret honeymoon. I opened the Aura Group's central finance portal. This is my real dashboard. I can see every dollar spent on every corporate card in every hotel in real time. I filtered by employee J. Sterling. My eyes scanned the recent charges, and I found it. A charge for a $100,000, made 3 weeks ago. The vendor, Aura Seychelles. My blood, which I thought was already ice, somehow got colder. Aura Seychelles is not a hotel. It's not even unlisted. It is my private island. It is the most exclusive, most secure, most expensive jewel in my crown. It is an unproperty, a place that officially does not exist. It's where I send royal families, heads of state, and my real top clients when they need to disappear. A $20,000 a night all-inclusive package that is invitation only. Julian didn't just book it. He had stolen it. He had used his general manager corporate Amex, the card I gave him for hotel operations and emergencies at the New York property, to charge a $100,000 honeymoon package. I dug deeper. I pulled the expense report he had filed. And there was the final unforgivable insult. He had disguised the charge. The line item read, "Client scouting and competitor analysis, Seychelles. He was stealing from me. He was committing fraud. He was using my most valuable private asset to fund the honeymoon for the secret wedding where he had publicly humiliatingly replaced me. This was a level of betrayal I had not even calculated. The sheer bald-faced arrogance. He had cut me out of his life, but he was more than happy to use my money to pay for his new one. He had, in effect, sent me the bill for my own execution. This was no longer about a mother's broken heart. This was about a CEO's stolen assets. This was my moment. The ultimate betrayal, funded by my own money, the perfect crime, as he saw it. I didn't call him. I didn't text him. I didn't rage. I acted. I picked up my secure line and I called Mr. Davies. Mr. Davies is the real general manager of the Seychelles resort. He is a loyal, discreet, ex-MI6 operative who has been my right hand for 20 years. He knows where all the bodies are buried, because he buried most of them for me. Mr. Davies, I said, my voice cold steel. Isabel here, Madam CEO. His voice was a smooth British baritone. A pleasure. I hope you're well. Your son is certainly enjoying his stay. That's why I'm calling Mr. Davies. We have a security situation in the royal villa, the Mr. Julian Sterling and his guest. There was a perfect calculated pause. Sir? But, I thought he was your son, madam. He's here on a competitor analysis trip, as per his executive file. He is not, I cut in. He is a former employee. He is here on fraudulent pretenses. He has charged this trip to a corporate account he no longer has access to. He is not a guest. He is a fraud, impersonating an executive of this company. Another cold understanding silence from Mr. Davies. I see, madam. How distressing. He is in effect a trespasser. How would you like us to handle this fraudulent party? I thought for a moment, a cold, clear plan forming. They are in the middle of their dinner service, correct? At L'Etoile? I knew the 3-star Michelin restaurant on the island was his favorite. Yes, madam. They've just ordered the prestige wine pairing. Excellent. I said. Here is the protocol. First, as of this second, his corporate card is frozen. His personal cards are also frozen. They are all tied to my central trust. I want the account frozen alert to hit mid-meal. When the bill comes, I want him to be humiliated. Second, have hotel security meet them at their villa. Lock them out. Third, prepare an envelope. This will be my surprise gift. I will be emailing you the contents immediately. A 3-pronged approach. Understood, madam, Mr. Davies said, his voice the very definition of professional, lethal discretion. I will handle the restaurant alert myself. Security will be dispatched to the royal villa. Consider the situation managed. I hung up. I opened my email. I typed a new message to Mr. Davies. Subject, contents for envelope. I attached 3 files. A high-resolution 8x10 digital photo I had screenshotted from the wedding video, Julian beaming, walking Patricia down the aisle. A PDF of his formal 1-sentence termination letter. A PDF of a beautiful, Aura-branded, itemized bill. The gift was on its way. They were in a word ecstatic. The Aura Seychelles was not a hotel. It was a private 500-acre island of impossible curated beauty. Their room was the royal villa, a 10,000-square-foot compound on its own private peninsula, complete with a personal staff of 5, an infinity pool that blended into the turquoise ocean, and a wine cellar stocked with vintages I had personally selected. For 3 days, Julian and Simone lived a life that was until now unimaginable to them. They had champagne, my champagne, delivered to their private beach by a butler. They took the resort's 80-foot yacht out for a sunset cruise, just the 2 of them laughing and feeding each other caviar. They were not just on a honeymoon, they were celebrating their coup. I've never felt so free, Simone said, her voice giddy. They were lounging by their pool, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. She was wearing a bikini that cost more than her old month's rent, and she looked, I had to admit, stunning. She was born to this, or at least she was born to take it. This is our life now, baby, Julian said, clinking his glass against hers. He felt it. He finally felt like the man. He had a beautiful, ambitious wife. He had an unlimited expense account. And he believed, finally put his controlling, overbearing mother in her place. He had cut the cord. To us, Simone said, her eyes shining with a hard, brilliant light. And to being done with her, no more Sunday calls. No more budgets. No more having to ask permission. She'll get over it, Julian said, with the casual cruelty of a man who has never faced a consequence. She's from another time. She doesn't understand this, she doesn't understand us, she's just jealous that I have you. Of course she is, Simone purred, snuggling closer. You're the real power, Julian. You're the boss. You earned all of this. She just sits on her old money. You're the one making it. He nodded, soaking it in. He was the boss. He had earned this. His charm, his management style, that was what made the New York hotel a success. His mother just checked the books. And when we get back, Simone whispered, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone, we need to talk about your real future, your own brand. The Sterling brand, not Aura. Why should we keep making her rich? We can start our own hotel group. My father's friend knows investors. We can leverage your New York success. Julian's eyes lit up. Yes. That was the next step. He'd use his mother's flagship property as a launchpad to build his own empire, and then he'd cut her out completely. He was the future. She was the past. They toasted to their new venture, Sterling Hotels, laughing as the sun dipped below the horizon, feeling for all the world like a king and queen. They were untouchable. They were, in their own minds, gods, and they had no idea that they were just two well-dressed, very stupid lambs happily dining in the penthouse of the slaughterhouse. That night, for their grand finale before leaving the next day, they had a reservation at L'Étoile. It was the resort's crown jewel, a Michelin 3-star restaurant built into the cliffside, with an underwater wine cellar. It was, perhaps, the most expensive restaurant in the world. Julian and Simone, dressed in their finest, made an entrance. They were the GM of New York, and his beautiful new wife. The staff, all of whom had been briefed by Mr. Davies, treated them with an almost divine reverence. Mr. Sterling, what an honor, the maitre d', Mr. Davies himself in a perfect, subtle cameo, said, bowing. Your mother, the esteemed Madame Isabel, would be so proud. Julian and Simone exchanged a small, private, arrogant smile. Yes. Well, she's busy, Julian said, waving a dismissive hand. Of course, sir. Your table is ready. The chef is preparing a special tasting menu for you, and the sommelier has selected the prestige wine pairing. The meal was a parade of absurd, decadent luxury: foie gras with gold leaf, albino caviar, lobster poached in 3 kinds of butter. Each course was paired with a wine that cost $1,000 a bottle. Julian and Simone, now fully convinced of their own godhood, lapped it up. They talked loudly about their plans for Sterling Hotels, about the tacky design of the New York lobby, which I had designed, and how they were going to fix it. Finally, after a dessert that involved dry ice and an edible sugar sculpture, the bill came. It was presented on a heavy silver tray. Julian, performing for his new wife, didn't even look at it. He just pulled out his executive corporate black card. My card, and handed it to the waiter. Here you go. The waiter, a young man who looked nervous, bowed and walked away. A few minutes passed. Mr. Davies returned to the table. He was holding the card between 2 fingers as if it were a dead insect. Mr. Sterling, he said, his voice a mask of deep professional regret. I am so terribly sorry. This card has been declined. Julian's smile froze. What? That's impossible. Run it again. We have, sir. 3 times, Mr. Davies said, his face a perfect sculpture of pained empathy. The message from the bank is, account frozen. Frozen? Julian laughed. A high, brittle sound. That's absurd. It's a server error. Fine. He huffed, annoyed, and dug in his wallet for his personal Amex, the one tied to his salary, the one I also paid. Try this one. My mother is probably updating her systems. She's so analog. Mr. Davies took the card. He walked away. He returned 30 seconds later. Sir, he said, his voice even more grave. I'm afraid this one is also declined. What? Julian was no longer smiling. The message is, insufficient funds. The restaurant was silent. The other tables, the real billionaires, the real clients, were all politely, quietly watching. Simone's face, a moment ago flushed with wine and victory, was turning a blotchy, ugly red. Julian, she hissed. What is going on? This is humiliating. It's her, Julian sputtered, his voice low and furious. She's doing this, that controlling, she's trying to ruin our honeymoon. Mr. Sterling, Mr. Davies said, I'm sure it's a simple mistake, but The bill, it is Julian and Simone just stared at him, their blood running cold. They were on a private island, thousands of miles from anywhere, and they didn't have a single dollar to their names. We'll sort it out in the morning, Julian stammered, trying to regain his boss persona. Just charge it to the room. We're in the royal villa. Of course, sir, Mr. Davies said, bowing again. My apologies for the inconvenience. Julian stood, grabbed Simone's arm, and stalked out of the restaurant, his face a mask of thunder. Simone was silent, her heels clicking angrily on the stone path. I cannot believe her. Julian seethed as they marched through the lush, torchlit jungle path back to their villa. She's a child, a petty, jealous child. How dare she pull a stunt like this? Just because she wasn't invited to my wedding, she's trying to punish me. She's not punishing you, Julian, she's punishing me. Simone hissed, her voice shaking with rage. This is because of me. She hates me. She hates that you're happy, that you're free. When I get my hands on her. They arrived at the grand carved wooden gates of the royal villa. Julian swiped his keycard at the electronic lock. Beep boop, red light. He frowned. He swiped it again harder. Beep boop, red light. What is wrong with this place? He yelled, rattling the gate. This is unacceptable. Good evening, Mr. Sterling. A man stepped out of the shadows. He was not a resort employee. He was wearing a sharp, dark suit and a military-style earpiece. He was Mr. Thorne, the resort's head of security, and he was flanked by 2 other uniformed guards. Mr. Thorne? What's going on? My key won't work, Julian said, trying to sound authoritative. Yes, sir, Mr. Thorne said, his voice polite but utterly cold. Your security access has been revoked. We were instructed to wait for you. Revoked by who? Julian demanded. By Aura Group ownership, sir. Mr. Thorne held out a large, heavy, cream-colored envelope. It was embossed with the Aura logo. This is for you. A surprise gift, I was told, from Madame Isabel. Julian snatched the envelope. A gift? Is this her apology? He tore it open. Simone crowded next to him, peering over his shoulder. The first thing that fell out was a beautiful, glossy 8x10 photo, printed on heavy cardstock. It was the picture from the wedding video. The one of Julian beaming with pride, walking Patricia down the aisle. What is this? Julian whispered. Then he pulled out the second item. A single heavy sheet of paper, also embossed with the Aura logo. It was a letter. It was one sentence. Your employment with the Aura Hotel Group is terminated. Effective immediately for gross misconduct and theft. Julian's blood turned to ice. Terminated? No. She can't. Julian. What is this? Simone snatched the third item from the envelope. It was a long itemized bill, stamped past due. Aura Penthouse GM Suite, 36 months, $2,400,000, she read, her voice trembling. Salary stipend, 36 months, $900,000. Aura Seychelles Royal Villa, 4 nights. L'Etoile dinner and wine pairing. Yacht charter. Her eyes scanned the page, the numbers getting bigger and bigger and bigger, until they reached the grand total at the bottom. Total due $3,421,180 a mil. For a long second there was no sound but the crickets in the jungle. Simone's face was white. She looked at the number, she looked at the termination letter, she looked at the picture of her mother. And then she screamed. It was not a small, ladylike shriek. It was a raw, guttural, animalistic sound of pure abject terror and rage. It echoed through the quiet, luxurious night. A sound of a future, a life dissolving into thin air. As Simone's scream was still echoing, Mr. Thorne spoke, his voice not faltering for a second. Sir, as you are no longer an employee, he said, as if reading from a script, your security access to all Aura properties has been revoked. The royal villa is now being prepared for the next guest. You can't. Julian stammered, his mind short-circuiting. He was holding the $3.4 million bill in his hand. It was trembling. This is my hotel. I'm the GM of New York. You report to me. With respect, sir, no. Mr. Thorne said, his voice flat. I report to Mr. Davies, who reports to Madame Isabel. Well, sir, you appear to report to no one. You're a civilian. You can't just kick us out. Simone had finally stopped screaming, her voice now a low, shaking hiss. Our Our things are in there. My clothes. My passport. Ah, yes, your belongings, Mr. Thorne said. The hotel staff has already packed your luggage and had it moved. Moved? Moved where? Julian asked, a tiny pathetic flicker of hope in his eyes. Maybe his mother had just demoted him to a different, less nice villa. We have moved your belongings to a standard room, sir. Room 1112. By the service entrance and the desalinization plant. It's all we had available. The humiliation was a physical blow. The service entrance, by the plant. That's where the junior staff and contractors stayed. Furthermore, Mr. Thorne continued, holding a small leather billfold, while Madame Isabel has handled your corporate malfeasance, you are still responsible for your personal bill for your stay thus far. Mr. Davies has drawn it up. He handed the billfold to Julian. That's $78,400. For the food, the wine, the spa treatments, and the yacht charter that were not part of your competitor analysis package. 78. Julian couldn't even say it. The hotel is of course holding your passports at the front desk, as collateral pending payment in full. Julian's legs gave out. He physically sagged against the villa gate. Trapped. They were trapped. On a private island, thousands of miles from home, with no money, no credit, no jobs, and no passports. This is kidnapping. Simone shrieked. We'll call the police. Mr. Thorne almost smiled. Ma'am, on this island, we are the police. And I assure you, theft by an employee is a very, very serious crime here. Madame Isabel was merciful in choosing to handle this as a civil rather than a criminal matter. I would advise you to take the room. He gestured, and one of the other guards stepped forward, holding a single simple plastic keycard. Room 112, sir. The bellman will show you the way. Julian, numb, defeated, his entire life in ruins, took the key. He and Simone, the king and queen of their new life, were escorted, like criminals, away from the royal villa, their angry, confused, and terrified whispers swallowed by the jungle night. The standard room was not by normal world standards bad. It was by Aura standards a prison cell. It was small. It had one queen bed, not a California king. The walls were thin. They could hear the clanging of the service carts and the low, constant thrum of the desalinization plant outside their window. The view was of a concrete wall. Their luggage, their beautiful designer luggage, was piled in the corner, looking absurd and out of place. This, Simone was pacing, her hands in her hair, her $50,000 wedding ring feeling like a lead weight. This is a nightmare. This is hell. Okay, just calm down, Julian said, his hands shaking as he pulled out his phone. She's just proving a point. She's a stage mom. This is her I told you so. She's bluffing. She can't just fire me. I'll call her. I'll apologize. I'll flatter her. It will be fine. He dialed my number, the number he had been dreading calling. He pressed call. It rang once, then click. Straight to voicemail. She sent me to voicemail. He whispered, staring at the phone. What? She blocked me. Blocked you? Simone shrieked, snatching the phone. Give me that. She dialed my number from her phone. Click. Straight to voicemail. She blocked me too. Simone's eyes were wide with a terror that was beyond rage. He's abandoned us here. The panic set in. A real animalistic terror. They were trapped. They were prisoners. They tried everything. They called the hotel front desk. I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling, but your account is locked. We cannot authorize any outgoing international calls until your bill is settled. They tried the room's Wi-Fi, trying to email me. Access denied. Please see the front desk. They were in a digital, financial, and physical cage. For the next 10 hours they sat in that small beige room, the thrum of the generator their only companion, and they descended into hell. They used the hotel's inter-resort only phone to call my villa, which of course I did not own. They called Mr. Davies. They called Mr. Thorne. And they called my voicemail. Over and over. My phone sitting on my desk in New York, lit up, 99 missed calls. A cascade of voicemails. I listened to them, one by one. The first was Julian, angry. Mom, this isn't funny, you've made your point. Turn the cards back on. We're on our honeymoon. Beep. The next, Simone, threatening. Isabel, You have no idea what you've done. I'm calling a lawyer. This is false imprisonment. Beep. An hour later, Julian panicked. Mom, please. Okay? I'm sorry, I didn't tell you about the wedding. It just happened so fast. Please, turn the cards on. We can't leave. Mom. Beep. 3 hours later, Simone, weeping. Please, Isabel, please. I'm sorry about my mom. We just want to come home. I'll tell Julian to apologize. Just, please. Beep. The last one time-stamped at 4 a.m. Seychelles time. It was Julian. His voice was a broken, unrecognizable whisper. Mom, I'm scared. I'm so scared. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. Just, please, Mom. Just help us. How do we get home? Beep. I saved that one. The golden boy was finally broken. The sun rose on room 1112. Julian was huddled on the small, uncomfortable chair, staring at the concrete wall. Simone was sitting on the edge of the bed, her face a mask of dried tears and smeared mascara. The silence in the room was no longer just quiet, it was dead. Simone looked at Julian, really looked at him for the first time. He wasn't a golden boy, he wasn't the boss, he wasn't the GM of New York. He was just a 30-year-old unemployed man in a cheap hotel room with no money, no power, and no future. He was a fraud. You lied to me, she whispered, her voice a low, gravelly rasp. Julian looked up, his eyes red and hollow. What? No, Simone, baby, this is just her. She's crazy. Shut up, Simone said. The word was not a request, it was a command. Just, shut up. I've been listening to your lies for a year. Lies? What lies? Your life, she shrieked, her control finally snapping. She stood up, her hands clenched. Your job, your salary, your penthouse. You told me you owned that apartment. You told me you were the youngest GM in the company's history. You're a fraud. I'm not a fraud, he yelled, jumping up. It is my job. She just pays for everything. It's a family company. A family company you just got fired from? She screamed. A family company where your mommy can just turn you off? Like a light switch? She was pacing now, a caged, furious animal. I tied my life to you. I thought you were real. I thought you were a player. But you're nothing. You're just a spoiled little boy living off his mommy, and you didn't even have the guts to tell me. I was going to, he pleaded. We were going to build our own brand. Sterling Hotels, remember? Simone let out a laugh. A high, bitter, terrifying laugh. Sterling Hotels? With what, Julian? With what money? You don't have any. You don't have a job. You don't have a cent. You have a $3.4 million bill. You haven't just ruined your life. You've ruined mine. Simone, that's not, I love you. Love? She spat. You don't love me. You just wanted someone to tell you that you were a big strong man because your mother never would. You wanted an ally. And I thought you were a partner. I thought you were my ticket. Your ticket, he whispered, the final pathetic realization dawning on him. Yes, my ticket, she screamed. Out. Up. I didn't claw my way out of my life to marry a dependent. I could have had, She stopped. She looked at him, at his weak, handsome, terrified face, and all the rage, all the hate, all the ambition, it just collapsed. She grabbed her own purse, the only thing that was truly hers, and walked to the door. Where are you going? He stammered. I'm going to the front desk, she said, her voice dead. I'm going to call my mother. I'm going to have her wire me just enough money for a coach ticket home, and then, I'm going to have her call a lawyer. I'm getting an annulment. Simone, you can't. I can, she said, opening the door. You are nothing, Julian. You are less than nothing. She walked out and slammed the door, leaving him alone in the small beige room, with the thrum of the generator. I let them stew. I let them sit in that small room for 2 full days. I let Simone's mother, Patricia, wire the money which I'm sure was her entire life savings for a one-way coach ticket. I let Simone leave the island, and her new husband without a single backward glance. I left Julian alone in that room for another 24 hours. A 30-year-old man with no money, no wife and no passport on an island on the other side of the world. Finally, after 3 full days of silence, I unblocked his number. It was 4 a.m. in New York, 1 p.m. in the Seychelles. My phone rang. I picked it up. "Hello, Julian," I said. It was not the broken weeping man from the voicemail. It was just silence. A long, hollow, empty silence. "Mom?" His voice was a rasp. "Yes, Julian. How do I get home?" he whispered. I sat in my study. I looked out at my garden. I felt nothing. Not triumph. Not anger. Not even sadness. Just closure. The experiment was over. The books were balanced. "You are a 30-year-old man, Julian," I said, my voice calm and clinical, the voice I used to use on incompetent, lazy residents. "You wanted to be independent. You wanted to be your own man. You are on an island. There are planes. There are also boats. I'm sure you can manage it." Mom, please. I have no money. I can't. "Please, Mom. You are a sterling, Julian," I said, using the name his new wife had been so fond of. "And as you and Simone were so excited to build sterling hotels, I assume you have investors. Call them. Call your father-in-law. Call Stephanie." "Mom, please. I'm sorry." "Goodbye, Julian," I said. "You wanted to cut the cord. I just held the scissors for you." I hung up. I blocked his number again, this time, for good. I then picked up my other phone. "Thomas," I said to my real travel agent. "Yes. Book me a one-way ticket to the Seychelles. First class. I feel like a vacation, and please call ahead to Mr. Davies. Have him hold the royal villa for me, the one that just opened up. I hear it's lovely this time of year." I hung up. I looked at the wedding video still open on a browser tab. Julian smiling, walking Patricia down the aisle. I smiled too. He'd wanted to be free. I'd just given him exactly what he wanted. Total, absolute, and penniless freedom. Thank you for watching.